very much. My name is Tim the Piano Man, and I take requests. I don't play them, but I take them. Yes, ma'am. The question is, how long have I been playing? About 12 minutes now. You mean overall, how old was I when I started playing? I was 5, and I'm 36 years old, so that's about 31 years. Thank you very much. Thank you. I had a lot of very patient teachers. A lot of very patient teachers.
I had a grandmother, and they sat down and sing for years. I learned a lesson.
That's wonderful.
I love getting down here and hear you. It brings back such wonderful memories.
Thank you, ma'am.
I never get the opportunity to put the piano
Oh,
because my hands study. You'll notice as you're playing, I sit down and play right beside you.
that's great.
Because that's all I know. That's the movement. That's
Thank you.
it's a pleasure to hear you.
Thank you. time for a couple more, so if you have a request, just let me know. You can write it on something small like a napkin and crumble it up and throw it at me. And if I catch it, I'll play it. Or you can always just raise your hand, that works too. That might work better. Yes, ma'am. Hey, that's a good one, I'll do it.
Fantasy balls.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Great audience. Thank you. Oh, we got snacks, we got drinks, we got music. It's a good Friday afternoon. Thank you very much. Hey, how you doing?
How you doing?
least a little bit happier than you were an hour ago. See y'all again soon. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry I didn't get to all y'all's requests. 3 things need to happen. Number 1, I need to see it. Number 2, I need to know it. Number 3, it needs to be appropriate for the gig that I'm playing. So I live stream my gigs. And I see your request. I do know Golden Hour. That's a good one. I tried to work in a little quote there at the end. So I hope that you enjoyed that. Another love I don't really know. Jason says, I wish I caught you earlier. Hey, welcome back, Jason. The Osu team says, what song is this? I'm sorry, I don't remember what song I was playing. Blueberry says, yes. Luke the Blue Neon Fox Khalifa 3. Whoa, what a name. Says, play Lacrimosa. That's a good one. I don't know it well enough to do it right. Thank you, my friend whose name is in Cyrillic. Thank you for joining. Thanks for the emoji. QTE. Laura, welcome back. You play very well. Thank you. Sherry Taylor. Thanks for joining. Megan Renee says, you're so good. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. So my name's Tim, and I'm going to do something that some folks find controversial. I'm going to continue the stream as I drive. That's right. YouTube lets me make my own decisions and take my own risks. So I'm going to drive and stream until I get to the grocery store. I'm picking up some water, both regular and sparkling. But I gotta see if I can get a cart. If I can't get a cart, so I'm going to Aldi. If I can't get a cart, then I'm not gonna pick up as much as I would like. Also, I don't think I have a quarter. Quarter's really not that much anymore. I mean, I've seen a lot of people don't care about a quarter anymore. Now, if they could unlock the cart with the $5 bill, that would be something else. So I'm gonna see if I can score a cart. I'm gonna see if I can score a cart, man. Thanks for joining, everybody. Maggot West Park, hello, friend. Thank you. My name's Tim. I'm a piano player, and I play piano at retirement communities full-time. That's my job right now. Basically, I own my job. I have a couple of there's a couple instances where I will sort of farm out my gigs for a commission, which to me seems like the only path to scalability. Because right now, I'm maxing out my gigs. Maybe not max, but like pretty seriously maxing, which is cool. But I need to figure out a way to grow. Your live is strong fire. Thank you very much, Marcy. Thank you very much. I'll take that compliment. Strong fire. Thank you. That reminds me of that old internet trope, that internet meme. Before meme was a thing, there was this, I don't know if y'all know this internet meme, before memes were memes, or before they were called that. I guess he became a meme. Trogdor. Do y'all remember that game? It's a vintage, classic internet game, Trogdor, about this dragon with like an arm coming out of it. It's hilarious. Anyways, I know that I'm reading it wrong for some reason, and it's funny to me that your comment says strong fire. It is a nice compliment, and thank you very much. But it's making me laugh at the same time. Emojis are weird and interesting too, because it's like this way of communicating that it's not verbal necessarily, it's pictorial. It's like ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics. It has a meaning that's not necessarily word-based. I mean, it sounds obvious, but it's interesting. Like, you can communicate emojis with somebody that speaks a different language. Like, if you're traveling somewhere and you're looking for the bathroom, but you don't know how to say where's the bathroom, you can just, pull up an emoji of a toilet with a question mark. Like, where is it? So it's interesting, you can communicate with emojis differently than verbally or in the written language. There's a certain codification, I think, that written language makes available that emojis don't. You can be more direct with written language. You can be more abstract with written language too. How old are you? Well, I'm at the age when men of my genetics begin to lose their hair, and I've decided to capitulate in that battle. I threw down my dagger and embraced the razor, and I went ahead and shaved my head. And that age, well, it's about 30, mid-30s. So yeah, I'm in my mid-30s. I'm 36. 36 years old. In American. I believe in Korean, I would be 37 or 38. Somebody verify that for me. Did you know that they calculate ages differently in Korea? Isn't that interesting? I've been playing the piano for 31 years. I started taking lessons when I was 5, and my first paid gig, I don't know how old I was. I must have been like 13 or 14 years old when I first got paid, and I didn't get paid that much. I didn't start really getting paid that much until I started negotiating my price and getting better at solo piano gigs. Good age. Thank you very much. Thank you. I guess. I can't do much about it. I think that any age that I am is going to be a good age. Or maybe I'm just an optimist. Maybe that's the optimism of the young. You might not think I'm young, but I think that in relative terms, I am young. People these days are living to past 100. Now, the average age of Americans has declined recently, like the past, 10 years or so, the average age that people are living to, but I think that's because of health issues from like the poisoned food supply, which is a completely different rabbit hole. But anyways, on the whole, in the big picture, I believe that people are going to be living longer in the future. I think that I could live past 100, in which case 36 is pretty young. But if I'm looking at myself and I'm 20, 25 seems old when you're 20. It's a different perception. And I know this because there's this man that I work with, a young man. He must be about 20. And and I was making some reference to wine or something, because I like wine. And I was making some reference to it, and he was looking at me like, "You're so old, like I just drink beer." Wine? That's for old people. And it was really funny. By the way, you're never too young to have good taste. You're never too young to have good taste. Although I didn't necessarily have the money to have good taste when I was younger. Now I have a little bit more money now than I used to. I don't have a ton. I would like to. You're never too young for good taste. And there are ways of enjoying good taste when you're young too that are not necessarily tied with money. Like you could work somewhere. You could work at a nice restaurant if you want to try good wines and good food. You could work at a nice restaurant. That's one thing. You could become a curator of certain things. You could ingratiate yourself to certain social circles by being of service in different ways. Even if it's not a job, you could be like a runner for somebody. Or you could provide value to somebody whose circle you want to endear yourself to. Make sure that it's ethical and not necessarily ethical, but make sure that it's good for you too and they're not abusing you. So you don't want to get abused. Don't do that. In these situations, you want to have the leverage to leave at any time. That's good. You want to have leverage to leave, and it needs to be mutually beneficial. So in other words, you're doing something for somebody that's established. It could be in a career position, or you could be, if you want to be like part of their social circle, you could work for free, like as a second job, and make yourself indispensable. Then you have leverage. That's leverage. You don't need money for that. You would need some time and a little bit of strategy. And say you want to get into the theater in your community. You could help with advertising for the theater. You could help if you have graphic design skills. You could do some graphic design. If you are a social butterfly, you could schmooze and you could talk to people, and you could be part of the party and part of their public face. So there's a lot of things that you can do if you're young to get involved with different circles. And it depends on what circle you want to be in. My sister is very chill, and she doesn't like pretension. She doesn't like pretentious people or pretentious things, and I respect that. And I don't necessarily like pretentious people or pretentious things, but I do like the same, and this is weird, I do tend to like the same kind of things that pretentious people like and that non-pretentious people find pretentious. Like highbrow art, theater, wine, clothing. I like that stuff. I like it. And it's something to work for. I was not born into money at all. Any money that I have, I've worked for, which I'm proud of. And I mean, I grew up eating hot dogs and ramen noodle soup and macaroni and cheese out of the box and spaghetti out of the box. Like, these were not high cost items. And in fact, I actually think it was kind of bad for me because I had stomach issues when I was a kid. But you get to decide what your taste is and what your standards are. And you might find yourself in the uncomfortable position when you learn that your standards and your tastes far exceed your budget. But the ironic thing is that you can still have your tastes and your standards and not have the actual thing that confirm those tastes and standards. You can suffer. You can suck it up, and you can limit yourself and budget yourself to the extent where you're building up towards something, towards a different lifestyle. And I believe that earning that lifestyle is worth it. And furthermore, here's the cool thing. What you have to do and who you have to become and the values that you have to adopt in order to earn this new lifestyle makes you a different person. It might even make you a better person. It might even make you a better person. The values that you have to adopt in order to become the person that you want, once you've established what new standards you have, I think it's pretty cool. I think it's pretty cool. All right, I'm gonna see if I can get a grocery cart here at the grocery store. Oh, first I need to find a good parking space. That was not a good parking space. Sometimes I can get them, sometimes I can't. And I forgot my quarter. I'm at Aldi's. They do this thing where they lock up, where they basically pay their customers a quarter to lock up the grocery cart. And that used to be a big deal to me. Like, I'm gonna get my quarter, and then sometimes I would find a cart with the quarter in, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, this person is stupid. I'm gonna get their quarter, and I would take their quarter, and I was like, yeah. Hey, what's up? Quick intro. You seem like an interesting dude. I'll give you a quick intro. I'm a piano player. I play piano full-time at retirement communities, and I've built this business, this book of business, from the ground up. So I had to learn how to sell myself to retirement communities and how to do the sales process and run a business. I'm in the process of building up my business to the extent where I can send other piano players out, and that's hard. And I'm having to learn a lot of different skills. And so it's like I'm in a video game, but I'm having to level up. But I know that I am where I am because I got to where I am by working. And I live in America. I live in Tennessee, the state of Tennessee. And working hard is rewarded. Even though there's still a bunch of taxes, it's not as much taxes as a lot of different parts of the world. You know, there's positives and negatives to that. There's pros and cons, but I am really happy with where I am. So that's kind of a quick intro, I guess. I like jazz, I like ragtime music, and right now I'm working on saving up to get a music studio, and that music studio is going to allow me to practice more and to do more live streams. So this is a continuous live stream from my last show. If you go back and look at the replay, by the way, thanks for subscribing, everybody. Thanks for the subscribing. If you look at the replay, then you'll see that I don't really do requests that are commented. I take live requests from the seniors. Only sometimes will I be able to do a request from the comment section. That's when I see it, when I know it, and when I think it's appropriate for me to play. Motivational guy, respect. You seem like my uncle. He's a pretty cool dude. Best of luck. I gotta go, but I'll subscribe and watch you. Motivational guy, thank you very much. Appreciate the motivation, and if I can return that motivation, I'll do so. I do enjoy talking to my audience that is on a growth path, because motivation is important. Taking action is important. And if you take action, whether or not you're motivated, you're going to get further than somebody that's motivated and doesn't take action. But motivation is still important. You got to psych yourself up and get through the hard times too. All right, y'all, I'm going to venture into this grocery store and get some water, and some sparkling water. And do I need anything else? Nope, not at this one. All right, peace. Thanks for watching.